Well, hey guys, good morning. Big A coming to you live from the station camp Greenway. What a great day. Had to put my sunglasses on today. We got the sun out. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. I had the privilege this weekend of taking my oldest granddaughter to breakfast, and we got to sit there and talk about what her future was going to look like. She's in high school this year, and started talking about college and what that's going to look like. And I got pretty excited thinking about it. It made me feel kind of old too, though, that I've got a granddaughter that's thinking about going to college. And we started talking about the things that she was going to be confronted with. And she's so excited. She's going to be in the medical field. And we started talking about her major and what she was going to do. And she got so excited. And in the course of the conversation, I said, you know, some of those universities that you're looking at, they're going to challenge your thinking in many, many ways, in academics and also the place that you've come from here in the hub of the universe in Nashville, Tennessee. They're going to think differently in some of these universities. And I said, are you prepared? Are you prepared for some of the challenges that you're going to face, some of the things that they're going to talk about, some of the things that they're going to do, some of the things that you're going to be exposed to? I'm a typical grandfather. I want to protect my granddaughter like I know you guys want to protect your children and grandchildren. So we sat there for the next hour and a half, and we started talking through that. Well, as a result of that, it made me think about professionals that I coach on a weekly basis and the things that they're confronted with and the way they act and the way they respond. And what I started thinking about was my mentor, Bob Warren, and how he used to tell me one thing that really stuck with me. He said, be willing to stand alone in your decisions. If your convictions are a certain way, be willing to stand alone. And I started thinking back over the course of my career and things that I had done and people I had talked to and the different ways that I had talked. And I started thinking, you know, I wasn't always the same person. I started thinking about when I would have certain conversations, depending on who I was talking to, I might tell that joke too. You know what I'm saying? Those little jokes that we are a little bit off color, and we think, well, you know, it's not that bad. But then if my grandchildren and my children are around, there's no way I would tell that little joke. Or I used to go out of town a lot with some guys to play golf every year. About 16 of us would go to Destin, Florida, and we would play golf. Great guys. I love these guys. Did business with them, go to church with them, in the community with them. But oftentimes, many of them, we would get to Destin, Florida, and some of the things that they would drink would be different than things they would drink here. Or places they would go for entertainment would be different than the places they would go for entertainment here. The things that they would talk about while we were on the golf course, they wouldn't talk about if their wife was around. Or some of the jokes that they would tell, there's no way here in Nashville they would tell those jokes. And it was a little confusing to me as a young businessman. I'm like, well, who are you? I'm confused. Like, I mean, are you this guy in Nashville or are you this guy in Destin? I mean, I'm confused exactly who you are. And as a young businessman, I was like, I got to make a decision. So I would always drive when I would go to Destin. I didn't want to be caught in a situation to where I had to go or do something that I didn't want to do. And as life progressed and as business progressed, I saw it with colleagues and peers that I was around. Like, they would say certain things to me and they would never do that in front of their children. Guys, I want you to be the same regardless of who you're around. Whether it's your children or your spouse or your colleagues or peers or even by yourself, I want you to be the same person. I talk about this a lot with men that I'm coaching. It's exhausting to be the other way. You've got to decide exactly, am I going to tell this? Am I going to say this? I'm going to ask this question because I'm around this group of people. Or am I going to say this or behave this way? I can't say this. You've got to choose all the time what you do and what you say based on your audience. And I did a video not long ago and I said, are you a chameleon? And a chameleon is something that adapts to its surrounding. Whatever color it's on, it changes that color. Are you a chameleon? Is that who you are? Because that's very confusing to the people that you're influencing. Your children, your spouse, your colleagues and your peers. They're like, I don't even know myself who that is. A guy called me. His name is Daryl. He said, I'm going to be on this certain podcast. And he said, I don't know whether to talk about my faith or not. And I started laughing. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I don't know whether to use it a lot or don't say anything or barely mention it. I said, what about you just be Daryl? If it comes up, then use it. Right? Don't try to adapt to your surroundings. I want you to be willing to stand alone for your principles and the things that you've learned over the course of your life and who you are and your character. I want you to be honest. I want you to do it with integrity. I want you to have high morals. I want you to do the things regardless of who you're around. I remember one of my daughters when she was in the 8th grade, 20 years ago now, she was watching a movie with Robin and I. And we didn't have as strong of boundaries as young parents as we've adopted over the course of our grandchildren as our children has gotten older. And we were watching a movie. And in this movie, there was a very explicit sex scene in this movie. And to be honest with you, I knew it was in the movie, but I already had a plan. And so when it got to this sex scene, I told my daughter, I said, hey, you run upstairs and we'll give you a shout when this is over. And she said, Dad, I know what they're doing. And I said, well, I know you know what they're doing, but I don't want you to watch it. And I played the faith card on her. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, how pleased would God be with you watching this? And she turned and looked at me and she said, how pleased is God with you watching it? And I'm going to tell you, man, it drove a stake through my heart when she said that. And I said, you know what, you're right. And I went over and turned the TV off and called my other daughter in the room. I got Robin in there and I said, hey, listen, we're going to have a little family meeting. I said, from this day forward, I pledge to both you girls and my wife that we will never watch a movie that the whole family can't watch. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We've probably missed a lot of good movies over the course of the past 20 years. But the truth of the matter is my children know where I stand. My grandchildren know where I stand. Now, I'm not saying there's not some movies out there that you couldn't have watched, but we always use the adult thing. Like, this is an adult thing. Well, what about the influence that you're having on your children and your grandchildren? Because what we do in moderation, our children do in excess. And we've got to be careful saying that's an adult beverage. I would never do that in front of my children. Let me tell you something, they're going to know. I'm just telling you, you're not going to hide it. They're going to know. And I'm not saying that drinking is wrong. That's up to you. That's not up to me. For me, it's wrong, and I don't do it. Total abstinence from drinking, that's just my personal preference, and I'm not imposing that on you. I'm just saying that's our choice. Movies that are R-rated or worse than R-rated, you know, that's up to you whether you let your children watch them or not. But there's got to be some sense of order in your family. There's got to be some kind of boundaries in your family. There's got to be something there that you can point to and say, hey, not do as I say, but I want you to do as I do. That goes a lot further with your children than when you are dictating orders and telling them what they can and can't do. But your example is exactly the opposite. Guys, we got to be careful today the way we're leading our kids. I want to encourage you today to have those boundaries set in place. And my final question for you today is, there's a lawnmower coming, so I guess I better walk a little bit faster. My final question to you today is, who are you? Are you authentic and are you genuine and are you the same person in front of your kids and your grandkids and your peers and your colleagues? Or are you a chameleon? I don't want you to be a chameleon. I want you to stand up and be who you are regardless of who's around. I want you to tell the same stories in front of your kids and your grandkids and be never caught saying things that you would be embarrassed about with your family. Well, hey, the lawnmower's chasing me this morning on the Greenways. You guys have a good one. I'm Big A, coming to you from the noisy Station Camp Greenway on this beautiful morning. Have a good one, guys. Go out there today and be yourself. We'll see you.